Good afternoon. Welcome to the first ever Quick Design webinar. My name is Matias Pietilä. I'm the head of design at Quick.
And my name is Jesse Ukkonen. I'm a product designer at Quick as well.
And today we are going to be sharing you two interesting service design cases from award-winning services, the ticket vending machine for VR and the bonus group finder for Tallink.
Yes, let's roll.
Let me see how I get my screen share on again. Here we go. You will most likely see the correct slide now. They do.
Yes, I do.
Okay. I'm thrilled to be here. You know, I don't normally like webinars, but this time these cases are so meaningful for me personally that I really like to manage even a webinar.
Yeah, but this is like really great. I heard that we have over 100 participants here, so that's something.
That is something. It's a start at least. So how about we do it so that I will first share the Tallink story, kind of as an opening act, and then you can shock the audience with some VR magic.
That suits me.
And then after that, we will have time for comments and questions. So no rush to leave us after 3 o'clock. So, okay, let's get started by telling quickly what Quick is all about. So most of you like to know us, but we have 4 areas of excellence. We have business consulting, we have design, we have front-end development, we have cloud development. And today we're going to be talking about design. Our design is mostly known for award-winning mobile services. We've been doing mobile stuff since the dawn of time. But nowadays we are actually so much more. Already the majority of our design revenue comes from design other than mobile. It can be web stuff, it can be service design. All in all, there are 18 designers in our team. 1/3 of them are female. And our revenue last year was a bit shy of 2 million. We are mostly focusing on impact in everything we do. Now the impact can take multiple shapes and forms. It can be about happier customers. It can be about business outcomes. It can be about better society in general. But we always want to have this kind of measurable goal towards which we are going. When it comes to mobility, it's good to understand that we actually, it's calculated last week, we have more than 30 person years of experience working in this domain. So it's crazy when you think it like that. But yeah, that's maybe enough of Quick, so let's get to the point. The first case will be Tallink and creating personalized experiences for loyal customers. Now, this story starts in 2018. I'm going to tell the background first. So first of all, when we think of Tallink, not everybody knows that the quality of their online services is actually very good. For example, if we take their old desktop booking service, there was a comparison a couple of years ago when international cruise operators were compared about the usability of their booking services. We see some weird names here that are at the top of the list, being the slowest ones. We start seeing some familiar names when we get towards the top. And then the fastest of them all is Tallink. So basically the desktop booking system that they have is the best of the breed. Now, mobile is not too shabby either. We've been working with them for 5 years, helping them perfect the mobile solution. So basically when starting, the bar was pretty high that the new service should be of great quality as well. Here's some background for the project. So basically, well, we know that Tallink is the leading shipping operator in the Baltic Sea region. What some of us maybe don't know is how big a deal this onboard sales is for the company. Maybe you've also experienced the fact when you get on board the ship, so you just end up spending more than you.
Yeah, it's usually just the one candy bag, but then I leave the boat with like a bunch of stuff. So I know the situation.
Exactly. Yeah, so there are no public figures available, but for example, Inderes is saying that the onboard sales can be even twice the ticket revenue. They have the Club One loyalty program with 2.7 million members in multiple countries. They also have a separate marketing site and booking engine, which makes it sometimes hard when you want to learn about the destination or the events take place on board the ship. So you have to go multiple places on the website. But now they would be having these new capabilities enabled by Adobe Marketing Cloud, which would let them do stuff in a more smarter way than ever before. Also, they had 3 different brands to worry about: the Silja line, Tallink, and Club One, all of them having their custom specific rules. So this was the kind of background where we started, and the project had following goals. We wanted to validate what we can build with this new technology, and not just do a technical POC, but rather find a relevant business case that will actually solve a meaningful customer problem. So when you start doing something like that, it doesn't really make sense to replicate the existing site just with a new technology, but rather you want to find a novel new customer problem that is currently not solved and see if you can somehow solve it with the new technology. So hypothesis was created. We know that people have these bonus points and that the points will expire. Now, intuitively, you would think it's a good thing that the points expire, because then you just don't have to give anything for these customers. But in reality, it's a good idea to use the points to get them on board the ship and spend money there. So we wanted to make it very easy for these people to use the points to book these bonus trips. And basically, personalized messaging is the way to make this happen. That's at least what we assumed. So the volumes here are so huge that even if we get a small change in the behavior of customers, it will be visible as huge revenue increase afterwards. That was about the background. Now, about creating the concept in June, August 2018. We would start by understanding the problem, not really rushing into solution like you would want to do, but rather really understanding if the people were having the needs we assumed that they had. So we would do things like customer interviews and contextual inquiry on board ships. People were happy to answer us there because they have a lot of time and they are on a relaxed mood when they are having a cruise. We would be analyzing the communications. We would be doing the cliche thing and go to call center to observe how people call in with their problems. Even more useful was analyzing chat logs and seeing what kind of issues came up there. We'd also meet internal stakeholders, interview them about the program and about the needs the customers have with that. And once we had all these assumptions done, we wanted to validate them by creating a large survey for these clients to double check that actually what we assumed to be the problem also was it. Another important channel for input was doing data analysis, how people use the points, how they expire, what kind of differences there are based on tier level or other factors. So yeah, that's how we did customer research.
Yeah, but I think I have to interrupt in this bit, but I think this seems to me something that is pretty basic. So I think there's nothing that special about this research part. Am I correct here?
Yeah. Well, I think you are totally right. I mean, there is nothing special about customer research. It is no rocket surgery, and I think that's one less excuse why you would not do it. It's not hard. You just have to get it done.
And it should be there in the beginning.
Exactly. Yeah. Okay. Another takeaway here is maybe that it doesn't have to be slow and expensive. That already in less than 1 month, you can gather a lot of insight and validate that you are actually investing in the right concept. Something we learned, for example, was how the points were distributed. So we would see that there were multiple people's on the left here that would not have enough points to book anything. But then at the right of this line, there would be people who have enough points to book something. And those would be our main target audience, because they didn't know yet that they have enough points to make bookings. So by activating them, we would have the biggest impact. The people on the right, they kind of take care of themselves already. So the survey that we did then helped us validate our assumptions. And we learned, like you can clearly see here, we learned that what we assumed to be the problem for the customers actually was. Now, when you start designing a solution for this kind of need, it's good to understand that normally cruise and travel booking systems in general, they start with a date, optimally with browsing support so that you can easily find availability. But anyway, you always have a date first and a destination maybe. But in this case, the question was rather like how to maximize the value we get out of our points. What is the nicest experience I can afford? So for that reason, we would start with a cabin instead. Here you can see my colleagues Rene and Anu designing the total flow. And at this point, I kind of felt that, okay, we nailed it. You see clearly that we have the beginning here where we trigger the customer with emails and stuff to come to the system. Then there's a landing page where they customize their perfect bonus trip, and then they just make the booking.
This is just like beauty for a designer's eye, so to say.
Okay, so basically the flow would look something like this at the point that there's a personalized email, there's a personalized landing page, and then there's a way to make the purchase. At this point, we would have this kind of simple prototypes that we would use to communicate the idea and also to test it with real customers. And it will also have other aspects. Basically, you could have other entry points. You could enter here from your Club One page and have this kind of manual deal finder kind of thing going on. And the same way, make your payments. And they would all somehow link together. At any of these points, we would be validating our assumptions with people. We were asking, for example, that would booking bonus trips be easier with this service? And people said yes. And knowing that people want to get free trips, we would be pretty sure that, okay, they will also make bookings once it's easy. Now we were also creating a new service at this point, so we wanted to make sure it also looks nice. So we needed to somehow adhere to the guidelines of these three different brands while creating something that would feel modern and a bit elevated from the old style. So we created this kind of competing approaches for various brands. There would be Silja style and Tallink style and Club One style separately, and they would look something like this at that point.
Yeah, this really strikes to me as well, because you can sometimes it's really hard to find the balance between the kind of first and the last draft when trying out new styles. So I can definitely relate to this project.
Yeah, typically the hardest part in any design project is to come up with visual style that anybody can be happy with. Yes. But I believe we did pretty well there. Also, what we were able to do was to okay, I still have some. Was to test that with real people. So basically, we were using these surveys to show them full screen visuals and asking how they like them, and we would get the feedback that, okay, this looks so much better than the existing service does. And again, testing, would you be willing to book more trips if it was easier? Kind of gave us a green light to move on with the concept. Now then, making it happen. It's good to remember that we were validating a tech approach after all, so we couldn't spend like an endless amount of time building nice things, but rather we had to get something out. So we had 6 months of time in which we needed to launch something. So we really need to focus on our MVP and really build stuff that would help us validate that there is a need that we can solve. And to do that properly, we would be using data again. We would analyze how many days before, for example, people book different kinds of trips. We would be analyzing which route we should support first, where was the biggest potential for this kind of service. We would analyze how people behave differently when booking trips with points versus money to really know how our service should behave in these regards. And as a result, we were, I'm happy to say, able to scope a true MVP for once. We would only support 2 passengers, only adults. We would only have 1 line, 1 product type, 1 market, 1 currency, 1 language supported in the system. We would only have 1 meal option. All the further tweaking would be done by using the existing booking engine. We'd have 2 email templates, 1 neutral and 1 about expiring points. And then we would have a new, nice standalone payment flow. I think that, yes, it's a good time now to focus on this mythical creature rarely seen, a true MVP.
Yes, it's not every day that you can see something like this.
You can see it's real because of it has that light effect in its horn.
Yeah, someone has really gave some photos of love to it.
Yeah, so scoping is where the magic happens. Like Mike Monteiro says, 2 most important words for a designer are no and why. And indeed, those words were used. So what happened was that we also learned that we cannot have it all, because the integration of various services was more complicated than we expected it to be. So we had to leave something away from the initial scope. So we wouldn't have meal option at all. If you wanted to have meal, you would use the existing booking engine for that. Also, we had to give up with this new payment flow and rather use what we already had. At the same time, we learned that actually building these personalized banners would be easier than we thought. So we were able to add a new entry point to the system to get more traffic to the site. So on the marketing page, we would have this kind of banners showing you realistic, real offers. Things like that's something that is tailored for me, something that I can afford, something that exists for real, and something that is easy to buy. And well, this led to crazy conversion. We are talking about double digits here. What we ended up launching after 6 months was then something like this. A simple web page with pretty limited functionality, but a lot going on under the hood. And basically, the way it worked was that not all the functionality was there for real. For example, we had this kind of menus. If you open the menu, it would say that, okay, we haven't built this yet, but you can use the other service to do this thing. And in the background, we would be collecting data to further prioritize our backlog to see which functionalities people are actually using. Same kind of thing here. Some takeaways from combining design and agile development are here. So it was found really valuable that each user story has a real KPI and a plan for how it is measured. Also, all the stories were prototyped before development, and we would test them with real people. It does add a bit of overhead, but it is worth it. Specs were, the handover for specs was done in a smart way to keep the documentation as lean as possible. And we also always accepted the fact that not everything is finalized when we start developing something, but there was always room for iteration during the sprint. So that is the way to get optimal user experience. So for example, when we were building prototypes for the mobile version, we would take them pretty far and try out all different kind of customer interaction there, so we would know it works for real. For example, here the summary bar at the bottom of the page will react to you scrolling the screen. So it's good to try it out before you start developing it to really get the feel how it will work on mobile. After the initial launch, we were then able to subsequently make new releases and add support for multiple routes and destinations there. And one nice example from the service is that we were able to personalize the hero images. So based on the customer segment the customer belongs to and some other parameters, you would kind of get a bit different kind of experience on the site. Also, when using the mobile version, we wouldn't settle just for making a responsive design for that, but rather design certain parts from ground up. So for example, when you have this destination picker, it is using the bottom area of the screen, so it's easy to reach with your thumb. The same approach can be seen in other screens as well.
And the ergonomic part is something that I really find pleasing when it has been taken into account. I don't have really big hands, so if all the main actions are on top of the screen, that can be sometimes a bit cumbersome.
Exactly, yeah. All right, then how did it go? Well, it did go pretty well. The users have been really happy with the service. The average rating has been over 4 out of 5, and the business metrics have been through the roof as well. We cannot share any absolute figures here, but you can imagine that when there are millions of these loyal customers around, so this kind of change in booking volumes means real money as well. And luckily, the judges in these competitions also saw the value, so we were able to get some awards there as well. So the goals were to find a relevant business case, to build something meaningful, and to validate a technology. And I think we did all that. Something we learned was that openly communicating the business goal helps everyone on board to make smart decisions every day. And you cannot stress enough how important it is to have a PO with a clear vision and trust in his team. I also think that scoping is king, and you really need to embrace the killed features, and you have to learn to think like that. You should always be measuring and ready to adapt your plans. All in all, using data for both what and how is how it should be done. You want to minimize handovers, so the people who do the initial customer research should also be included in the actual design and development phases. That is how the insight stays in the team. Also, you should keep on doing research as you build stuff, because that is the way to keep your backlog alive. One more thing is that you should not think in screens. Think about triggers, think about goals, form smooth flows that may contain different services and channels from the customer's point of view, and try to always hide the seams from the customer, and then obsess over the details, especially on mobile. And the last point is that you most likely underestimate the power of personalization in these kind of systems.
So not the dark side.
Yeah, that's something you cannot underestimate. So yeah, shout out to everyone involved. Dozens of people in about 10 countries giving their best. I'm yet to see anything like this.
All right, next we'll hop on to the hello. So that I will hop on to the train of the VR ticket vending machine. So that's the next case study at hand. And today we are not talking about the VR as in virtual reality, but the actually state-owned railway company. So that kind of VR today. There is the good old before and after pictures here, in which you can see the one on the right. So that's the new TVM with renewed hardware, software, and even brand, and the old one on the left. And if you have used some sort of ticket vending machines in the past, you might have noticed that usually the experience is not that great, so to say. So it was our mission to try to tackle that. But before we go to a deep dive of this project, I'd like want to highlight that we have the whole case study of the Talink project available there. You might see it on your screen. So just a quick notice on there. And then the project was pretty much carried through in 3 major steps. So first we had the pilot version, which was the bare bones minimum, the unicorn MVP. Then we went on to the production, and then we got to see the results. But let's go first to the pilot version. And as Matthias was heavily influenced in that, so maybe you can take over and tell the background.
Yeah, I'm happy to. Yeah, when we started, the VR had this new advanced hardware already ordered, and they wanted to have a software that would be kind of working there as well as it could, because they had huge touchscreen, they had nice sensors, they had cameras, they had many kind of new technology in it, and they wanted to have the best-in-class UX for that as well. The old system, like we know, was plagued with usability problems, and also VR was about to renew their backend system and come up with some new products for trains. So all this was in a kind of state of change when we started. Some goals for the project were to improve the UX, to decrease the average order time, to increase the average order value, and to improve accessibility. And yeah, I was thrilled to be included in this, because I have been having problems with VR for as long as I can remember. I've been blogging about the difficulties in the old system, so it was really nice to get to help them with the new generation. And before we go any further at this point, it's good to remember that we wouldn't be here without Lisa Stenberg, who was the lead designer in this project. So she no longer works here at Quick, so that's why we need to tell the story without her. But yeah, she's golden.
That is true.
Okay, we had very similar approach here than with Talink, that we had this kind of sprint of research where we wanted to understand what's going on. So we would do this usability inspection for the old system. There was this magical attic at the old main railway station where we are used to have their office. The attic was full of the test machines, and you would have these old ticket vending machines there that you could use to play around with. And we found so many stupid problems that you could write a book about them. But we just want to make sure that we will not repeat the same mistakes than the old system had done.
I think that previous one was my favorite message of all.
Yeah. What we also did is we would observe people using the systems, interview them, and also observe the surroundings. So, for example, what kind of information was available in that area for users. We'd also go and meet the people who were selling tickets at the office and interview them about their experiences. Something that we learned here was that human agents are very good at coming up with smart default values. So they would know that, okay, there are 2 people, so by default they would sell you 2 tickets, or they would see that, okay, you are young, so they would sell you a special ticket based on your age. And we kind of had the idea that, okay, we would like to have a system that is as smart as a human when making these assumptions. We were also lucky to be able to travel to Bern in Switzerland to actually visit Conduent, the device manufacturer of this new machine, who has been supplying these devices all over the world. Different kind of machines are selling tickets everywhere. So we were able to analyze the best practices when it comes to selling tickets on a touchscreen, accessibility, all that. Again, we took a look at data to understand what kind of tickets are sold and when. We cannot share the details here, but something interesting is that 96% of tickets are sold for the same day, and 99% of the tickets are one way only. So this kind of data is something you really need to take into account when designing a system. So yeah, we would then understand all the problems and make sure that we are not going to repeat those things in a new design. Again, you might say, it seems that there was nothing too interesting or special here. And again, I say there shouldn't be. It's basic stuff, and you can do a lot by just observing what's going on and making sure that you don't make the same mistakes again. When designing the initial flow for this, we would be utilizing our earlier learnings from services that were about booking. So with Tallink and with Aurinkomatkat, we had been doing booking engines, and learned that it makes sense to really utilize smart default values when you are doing your booking. So not to force the customer to go through every step and fill in something, but rather try to always select something by default, and this way minimize the effort required. So yeah, that is how we built the first version, and we would be really happy to be able to focus on micro interactions and nice things, because the developers were so capable of doing all these cool things with CSS and JavaScript. So we would create this kind of application kind of experience for this new system.
It's also worth noting that the touchscreen is actually really big, so it's like 27 inches, so you can actually see the spinners and the micro interactions. So that's something that they are in a prevalent place.
Exactly. And so the first beta launch of the service was done in 4 months already, and after that, and it seems I forgot my cable.
You don't.
Let's do it so that I'm going to skip this part and get a cable, and you can continue from here.
Smooth transitioning. So as Matthias laid out the foundations for the great product version, so I then took over with Lisa, and we started making the one. And for the beginning, I just have to show this picture of the wooden test TVM. We called it the puu-TVM because it was made of wood, and it basically comprises only the necessary components, so the touchscreen and the ticket printer and the payment terminal. So the wooden TVM was a really important tool for both development and the design, because with a physical device like this, you can realistically assess the UX and how the hardware actually is working with our implementations, because we really needed to take into account the limitations and also the possibilities of what this device can offer us. And here is a picture of our awesome developer who was enjoying some quality time with the wooden TVM in our Christmas party.
I just want to highlight that, we are live.
Yes, that is true. And if Kallio would have a train station, the tracks would go there, I think this would be its ticket vending machine, because it has a nice, rough hipster feel to it. We were in a really fortunate situation when preparing the launch and the production, because VR was renewing their brand at the same time with in cooperation with renewing the digital channels. So here are just a couple of layouts from the pilot version to the production, and some weird states there in between. So we had this nice process of kind of shuffling around with the colors and components, and we touched on about everything. So fonts, colors, contrasts, even tone of voice, the things that actually make you prompt and understand the context in a simple way. So we were applying and also developing the brand as we were developing and designing the product. So this was a nice situation in terms that we weren't not only handed a brand book with everything predefined and then we would just have to make it fit to the product, but this was actually a symbiotic process.
And that way you can also take into account usability and make it really work.
Yes, accessibility was really well incorporated in this process as well, so both in design and in development. And this is pretty much how the current product looks out on the train station. So you could say it's pretty much simple and a bit starker. And to my eyes, it looks a bit good, pretty good, not just a bit good. But we are talking about data and numbers, but we have to remember that good design is not only about the numbers. So it's equally important to engage the team and also engage the customers and the people inside the customer premises who know about these products much more than we as designers and maybe the consultants in the team. So we need to understand what the numbers mean to the end users as well. So we were gathering feedback internally with a bit more sophisticated test TVM as shown in the picture, and we had some post-its and Sharpies lying around so that people could just go on and try the product and leave their notes. And we actually had really nice ad hoc user test sessions beside the TVM as it was located in the cafeteria. So we had a nice iterative loop with the people at the office and with our team. So
I think that's always a great idea to minimize the threshold for testing. So
yes,
make it a habit and make it easy to do it.
Yes, we even had a test paying card that you can test the near field payment and stuff. So you could have your own test ticket. So I think I might have even a few at home still.
On the wall.
Yes. So the process was for me, of course, a lot of poking around and making notes and kind of understanding how the hardware and the touchscreen behaves. It's not just enough to draw the layouts and tell developer to implement those, but we really have to think about the interactions and how they actually work and feel just right. But of course, design work has also been fun and games, and this is one of examples for the April Fool's Day prank. So we changed the UI font to the good old Comic Sans, and we got a bit more feedback, but that aspired some good conversations as well. And we managed to create this kind of like a hype and engagement inside VR, at least in my opinion. The process and the design also included the paper tickets. So we renewed those as well. And you could think that like an actual paper ticket that a machine spits out is a pretty rare thing nowadays, but it was really cool to be able to make this bit better as well. So you could kind of say that the paper ticket is the last piece of the puzzle. So we have the ticket with the seat information and also the receipt attached in the same document, so that the onboarding experience and possible billing stuff would be easier afterwards.
The old system had the problem that you would have to separately press the button, I want to have a receipt, and people failed to press the button, and so there would be a lot of like customer care cases about that.
Yes, in Finland we have this saying, ei tarvi kuittia, but usually we want to have the receipt if we are buying some tickets.
Exactly.
Not any harm in having those.
There's also something that I think is related, is the fact how after you make the purchase, it tells you the track where you're supposed to go next. So also that way, kind of bridging the gap between channels. So you end your purchase, but then it tells you what to do next.
Yes, I think we have a glimpse of that in some demo video here upcoming. One of the most important aspects and learning experiences in this project was to actually make the accessible features and the interactions to work. So when we don't know, we have to ask. And our team was mainly comprised of able-bodied people with dexterous fingers and good eyesight. So we couldn't have empathized with all of the users without doing some actual reality check. So we had to see where we stand. And we did some expert design reviews with Annampura, who are accessibility experts, and they also helped us to gather users and to test with the right users. So people who actually need and use accessible services on daily basis. And this is nothing new here, improving, testing, learning about that. But we just put a bit more thought into understanding all of our users, because this is a public service and the users are basically whoever might walk on the train station. I like definitions, and in inclusive design, disability is described as mismatched human interactions. And I think, like, as designers, that is what we do. We fix the misalignments and the mismatches between human interactions and products. In medical terms, usually disability is something permanent and limiting, but we don't want to bring that sort of thing into the discussion when talking about accessibility in digital products, at least, or physical. So this kind of like a scope or viewpoint shifts the responsibility to the design and consequently to us designers. And it's our job to correct the mismatch and understand that we can fix this stuff through design. And I think like this shift in the mindset encourages innovation as well. One example of this kind of like an innovation would be the accessibility mode. The video is a bit jittery, but you can see that the UI actually shifts a bit lower so that we can facilitate users for people who use it from a lower standpoint. So this includes people using wheelchair or, for instance, children. So we didn't take away anything feature-wise from the product, but we just made it more accessible.
I think it's also interesting to remember that even though the screen is so large, there's only certain area that you can really focus on. So even if you happen to be taller, you still cannot interact with the whole screen, but you have to make the interactive area to be in certain range.
That's a really good point, because usually when you are looking at your laptop or your mobile device, you can see everything on one screen and like at one glance. But when you have a big screen in front of you, you really have to think about the proportions and the sizes of the elements and also the touch areas. So that's one of the reasons I was poking around in the cafeteria. So, off to the results. You could say that it did go pretty well. We have had a couple of indications in this spring collecting the awards together with Tallink. So you could say that the project and the product success is looking good so far. But to bring some tangibility here, we implemented this review system that the user has an option to review their purchase experience after they have received the ticket if they want. And this was pre-corona time, so the median was actually 5 stars and it was well over 4 the average. And then I just had to take an interesting peek. I wasn't looking about this or checking the reviews in a long time. So last week I checked that what's our corona time rating, and it's pretty good. You could say it's the same. As we can see, the amount of purchases are currently a bit lower. So that's different, but it's nice to see that the good customer satisfaction and experience seems to be persisting. One of the key things that we wanted to help our users was, of course, to get to the train as soon as possible. And we need to remember the context. So ticket vending machines are located in train stations, and usually it's not a place where you just go leisurely meandering about. But if you want a ticket and you are there and you don't have it yet, you are most likely in a hurry, and or getting into the train shortly. And as we could see that most of the tickets are bought to the same day and either like of the next hour. So that's something that we wanted to address.
I also like how we have the highlight there to indicate that this train is about to leave shortly.
Yes.
So you notice that it's at your own risk if you buy a ticket for this train.
Yes, if you really are in a hurry. So when buying a ticket to a train that's actually departing soon, it's really likely that there is a limited number of seats available. You might not get the basic seat that you would have get a couple of weeks ago, but we always automatically book the next cheapest seat. So whether it's the normal eco class seat or whether it's the situation that we only have the first class seats available, we pre-book those for the user. And of course, we want to inform about the situation that, hey, there are some limited amount of seats, but we got you these ones. We hope that it's okay. But in the same time, we also show the possibilities to upgrade or change your seat if you want to do that for some reason. And this was a nice thing to see after some time of being online and with the production build. So we wanted to reduce the average time that the people spend on the vending machines. So we compared with the old TVM, and we were happy to see that actually we were able to decrease the time spent on the screen and doing the booking by 26%. So those can be the vital golden seconds when you are in a hurry on the train station. And another insight worth sharing is that we managed to decrease the time on screen and the kind of purchasing time by 46% when it comes to local trains. So we have to remember that almost 60% of all the tickets sold on the ticket vending machines are to commuter trains. So that's like the prevalent main use case. And it was nice that we kind of found the sweet spot for the main use case.
Exactly. And this is not taking into account the time for payment.
Yes.
Because also the payment is now faster with this contactless payment option. So
yes. So this includes the time when you first tap the interface and stops to the time when you start putting your card or doing the payment.
Yeah. We also had that small microcopy thing there that's basically if the order value is less than 50 euros, we ask you to use your near field payment as a default in the message to kind of encourage people to do that.
Yes.
Again,
yes.
to get the process done faster.
Yeah, you might not think of it, but when thinking about the commuter tickets, which are usually more inexpensive than the long distance ones, so this is a really good feature. And what we wanted to do, like the great father of Macintosh said, let simple things be simple. We could take a quick deep dive to the main use case, so buying commuter tickets. And something that you might want to know in this phase is that we don't actually need to select a seat from a wagon map for the commuter trains. So you can just walk in. And despite the jittery video, I can see that basically if you are an adult traveling to, let's say, Järvenpää, you only need 2 taps. So select the destination and go to payment. In this video example, we walk through all the steps of the purchase flow, but you can actually see that there are no further steps required for the user to take. So if they are going with the next train, they can just buy the ticket as is. I wanted to demo a real production payment as well. You might want to do this on your own because the video is not really making glory to the example, but I happen to know the cheapest route available. That's the good old Oitti to Mommila and a child ticket. But this highlights that the contactless payment process really it speeds things up. But if you have, let's say, more travelers, more legs, complex trains and journeys, the ticket printing and processing the payment actually can sometimes be the bottleneck in the purchase flow. So I think these are just the things that we have to encounter and when operating with hardware. But there is the lovely ticket. Now I'm ready to go to Mommila if I were at Oitti, but I wasn't there. Wagon map, that has been one of the most cherished, hated, and loved features, especially when developing the new purchase channels. And one would say that everyone loves the wagon map, or at least choosing the right place for you. But we wanted to think about the special context of the TVM. So maybe the best thing that you can do is not maybe browse through the whole train and search for the optimal seat when we have ability to assign you a seat by the algorithm, and usually that's the good one. But we made it possible though. We have the wagon map on the TVM because, well, everyone loves the wagon map, or at least the ability to visually see your seat on the train. We tell it in text form before opening the wagon map, but there is also the possibility to actually see it. We needed to make some limitations because of the hardware, but by increasing the touch elements and kind of making some tweaks here and there, we managed to do it and pull it off. But the data tells us that actually about 13% of the users actually use the wagon map. So the 13% of the long distance ticket purchases, so where you actually have to book a seat or change it. This includes both the openings, so when you just tap it, and also the actual seat changes. But I think compared to the old TVM's wagon map usage, which was about 60%, we could maybe see that the wagon map is actually used only when you want to take the quick deep dive to your seat and maybe tweak it around. So I think we could conclude that the wagon map had actual value in making a purchase decision. So in most cases, I would be happy with the seats that the TVM gives me, and a lot of the user has been as well. So what we need to do to achieve this state of mind is to communicate the pre-given seats as clearly as possible, whether you have a normal seat in your desired place or an extra class seat because there are no other seats available. And then giving the opportunity to quickly select the desired place or seat in the UI. You can see in the background there is those kind of service cards, so we wanted to make it easily to upgrade your seat in just one tap. So although we know, or we think we know, what's best for the user, we don't really want to limit their options too much because we sell a plethora of different products on the TVM. So I think the user interface and the UX has to facilitate for that as well.
I think it's a good lesson that sometimes the decrease in usage of certain functionality can also be a success. So the fact that people use the map less means that we are now better at giving them default values and better at communicating what they have, so they don't have to go to the map to check it out.
Yes, someone could say that less is more.
Oh my.
Well, then to some extra bits. Like remember that commuter tickets are the main product that people purchase on the TVMs, but actually the long distance tickets are obviously a bit more valuable. So they bring a lot of revenue in. And when traveling longer distances, you might want to travel in comfort. And actually in the TVM, the most popular additional services are the extra class or the first class seat and a nice seat on the restaurant cars upstairs. So we had this hypothesis, and we knew that maybe someone would be willing to pay for these services if they knew that they were there. And as it turns out, we managed to increase the sales of these ancillary sales by over double. So that's a pretty good solution for a pretty easy problem. Just give the users what they want.
Who would have thought?
Yes. And then we won a couple of prizes for that. But of course, this wouldn't be possible without a devoted multi-vendor team. So we want to give a shout out to them as well. So when making great things, that requires great people, and we want to thank for all of them here. So what were we trying to achieve? There were 4 points. I think we improved the UX, the post-purchase rating without the global pandemic apocalyptic times has pretty much remained. That's a good test. We decreased the average order time by up to 46% in the main use case. The increased average order value, that's maybe something that is a bit too early to share, but it's not looking too bad. And of course, we improved the accessibility from the beginning. And you could say that this project has been about striking the balance between the main use cases that we had, a handful of those, the context of the busy train station, so actually the physical environment, and also designing the service as accessible as possible. And you could say that the result of those points is an award-winning product.
Exactly. Yeah, there is one recap I'd like to make after all of this. So basically, we've all been there. We've all seen this sad old way of building stuff when we have teams that are resourced as hand pairs. We have backlog-driven development where the business goals are fuzzy. We have lacking design, development, and business interaction. We have no systematic end-user involvement. Our products are defined in terms of features, and the amount of features overrides the quality of user experience. And then we've seen now this happy new way of doing things where teams are passionate about the product, where build, measure, learn loop is used to tackle real KPIs, where end users are involved both for what and how, and where product is defined in terms of the validated needs it solves, and where we do maybe less but better. And I hope that you found this useful. What we have now is we have a summer special. So if you would like to work with us, it is possible, easier than ever. There is currently, I guess, a document shared about the summer special offers we have. We have free half-a-day consulting for the fastest ones, and then we have up to 50% discount rates for certain products. It might be about accessibility, specifically for native applications. It's a tricky area that we happen to know, having the mobile experts in the house. Or if you want us to help you with a design sprint, we have a deal for that as well. So take a look at the document there. We also share with you a kind of document that contains the lessons learned in these two cases. If you would like to get the share slides, you can contact me, and let's see what we can share in slide format. But yeah, now it's about 15 o'clock, and I think it's time for any questions or comments. So let's see if we have anything there.
Yes, it seems that we have about 8 questions here. So starting from the Talink.
Let me enter this and move over so I can also see. Okay, I cannot see anything. Maybe you can see better there.
It can be. Let's see if I can get the.
Okay, I can zoom.
Cool, nice.
Okay, the first question was about VR machine operating without contact, reacting to voice. A good point. It would be very cool, especially in these Corona times, to have something like this. And the technology that we have in the system would enable voice interaction. It has both a microphone and a speaker. It has not been implemented so far. There was some testing done with that. I guess I can reveal that much.
Yeah, and one point to here as well, we tried actually not the machine kind of
Text to speech.
text to speech, but we did some like telling about the main things about your journey as an audio form. So telling where you are going and who is going and how much to pay. But we find it a bit challenging to actually make that sound clear in the busy train station. So that was something that was we tested with, but was left to the backlog. But let's see if we can utilize the sensors in later phase better.
Exactly. I was also kind of imagining, based on the experience I had with that agent who was selling tickets, that it would be so cool to use some kind of, machine learning to estimate the age of the user based on the camera and automatically give you like a senior citizen ticket. And you would be so angry if it was incorrect.
Yes, that would make a bunch of assumptions.
Yeah.
We had another question. Let's go the VR ones first. So did the users have a possibility to give feedback without completing the purchase? That's a really good point. I think from the production, we are getting feedback from the traditional customer channels, and we try to tackle as much as the feedback and the user responses when we were doing the user research and the user testing, but currently not in the production.
Yeah. Also something that I had to skip because of my power cable fiasco there was that when we were doing the beta release for the ticket vending machine, we had a pretty solid way of kind of forming hypotheses first and then coming up with research methods for validating those. So for example, the whole analytics that was created there was based on these assumptions that we created. So we were able to answer very specific questions on the new TVM. But with the old one, the analytics were really lagging. It was mostly about sales data. So we really do not have like apples to oranges comparison. We don't have enough data of the old system.
Yeah. Let's see what we then had.
Okay, there was something about scoping. Well, in both cases, I'm supposed to stop screen sharing. Boom. Okay, now you can see us in larger size, I guess. Yeah, it's my first time using this system, and I don't really know how it works, so sorry about that. Yeah, so there was a question about scoping. Well, scoping in both cases was very much based on the... Somebody is pointing me something there, a few questions.
I think that's the place where the questions live.
That's
their home.
Okay, so chat is different. Well, anyway, the scoping was based on data. So in Tallinn case, like I told, we wanted to understand what is the first route where it makes sense to launch the product, the first market, depending on multiple variables. And also with VR, we really took a look at the data. So for example, the old machine would support many kind of random ticket types that were next to never sold. And now the new one was focused on the actual products that people are using. So data takes you a long way.
Yes. There was a question from Bob about the unhappy customers. So what has been the main complaint from unhappy customers using the VR ticket vending machine, and how are we reacting to this? Well, one bigger complaint or challenge arose after the release. So we had this nifty pre-selection and smart default that we pre-selected one adult as a passenger when you entered the destination. And in some cases, some users didn't see that the adult was actually pre-selected. So they were just happy with the adult, even if they were of another passenger type, and then they proceeded and either bought the wrong ticket or bought two tickets. So we addressed this in a way so that we don't have any more default passenger selected. So the user has to make the explicit decision that this is the passenger that I am.
And Jesse knows that this makes me really sad, because the way I wanted it to be in the first place was that if you change to, say, a student, it would then take away that adult, but that was never implemented. So
it was to kill your darlings at some point.
So basically, it was launched in a way that it was never designed. Whatever, it's fixed now, one way or another. Okay, there was a question about the accessibility for the Tallink solution. Yeah, basically, Tallink is in a different situation than we are, in a way that they are not a public company or public organization in a way VR is, and the same rules don't apply to them at the moment. So unfortunately, accessibility maybe hasn't been that much of a highlight there. So I would say that most of their services are not on the same level of accessibility as this VR system is. Also, it's a bit different when you are about to launch an MVP, when you are about to validate a concept. So that's when you maybe don't care as much about accessibility. You just want to get stuff done quickly and see if it works. And then if there is a demand, then you start adding new things, and accessibility is one of such things that often you don't need accessibility to validate a concept. So sometimes you scope it out.
Yeah, I think there was one VR related question as well. So when comparing the UX improvement between the old and the new solution, how did you make sure the question is executed the same way between the solution?
I think we already discussed this one.
Oh, okay, well,
Yeah.
I wasn't just listening.
Okay, yeah. I was saying that, the old one didn't have as elaborate data as the new one.
That was that.
And all that. Okay, there was the question about voice interaction that we already discussed. Did the users have possibility to give feedback without completing the purchase?
I think that we tackled.
Yeah, that is a good point. Very often these feedback forms do concentrate on post-purchase customers, and then we miss all the data from people who didn't buy. And it's also the data you want to then present. It might be that you get better data to use for your PR purposes if you only take your happy customers. But that's about marketing then. Were there any not so obvious insights you found out via research?
I think this was about Tallink.
Yeah, well, I believe it could be for both, of course. I'd love to say that we learned something totally new, but right now I think that the assumptions we had were pretty spot on. It happened to be that the team who created these assumptions had been working in the industry for a long time. I had been doing that stuff for more than 4 years by then, I guess. And the PO and the team there, they had been there for 10 years. So they pretty well know how the market works. They pretty well know what kind of needs the customers have. So I'm not sure if we found anything totally surprising. The biggest value was that it helped us prioritize things and helped us to prove that we are on the right track and it makes sense to build that thing that we were about to build. When it comes to VR, I would not have expected the same day next train percentage to be that huge.
Yeah, that was pretty huge.
I might have missed that, but wondering if you consider usability of design for genders, female, smaller hands, layout, feedback, etc. Good point. I wonder how much was that taken into account specifically here? Of course, well, trivially small hands again, and with mobile phones. So we always want to design so that they work with small hands. That's why we have people like Jesse in the company who
have small hands.
So we can always find somebody with small hands. But joking aside, I don't think we paid any attention to the sex or gender, at least not in Talink.
Yeah. In VR project, the research was mainly focused on gathering as much different users, so that includes genders as well, but it was more focused on the different qualities that different users have, and that comprises cognitive states, hand tremors, problems with the eyesight or hearing, so more of like sensual stuff.
Okay, there's a question: how did you measure the painted door fake upcoming features? Yeah, well, we had like a basic analytics events tied to those buttons. So say if we had a button for select the amount of passengers that would open this kind of fake thing, we would then just track how many people press that, and then compare that to another button that we would have in the same menu that was about selecting the date range, for example. So let's assume we have both items in our backlog as epics. So we will likely build the one that gets more clicks first. So that kind of pretty simple analysis there.
And there was one question related to the chat log. So what kind of tools did we use to go through the plethora of chats?
I guess we have to admit that we didn't do anything fancy there. We mostly just read them through, spent like a day or two reading those logs and found some new interesting issues. So yeah, would be nice to say that we have some fancy machine learning bot that would analyze everything and distill pure gold, but we don't have it now.
Without manual labor.
Okay.
I guess those were all of the questions.
Okay, it seems that there are no more questions here. If there is nothing else, I think it's time for us to thank for the attention and thank for your time. I hope that you found something interesting or useful here. And yeah, like I said, go download the materials, be in touch. We are happy to talk more.
Yes. Thanks for participating.
Bye-bye.
Bye.